All right, folks, before we head back to court, I want to bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us, trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining the judge and I on the program. I want to get your thoughts about this case. And you know, one of the things that was said early on by the prosecutor, she was doing her post-trial press conference, saying, she said, the one word that describes this case to her is unbelievable. And I think we all agree. I mean, it's just unbelievable what happened here. There's really, I haven't yet to hear any explanation.
This woman's a monster. What she did was evil. She's an evil monster. She had this sick fetish for hurting other people, because the person who actually died, the person who should have died should have been hurt, but the person who actually died was actually a hero. Think about it. That police officer was not chasing her because he wanted to pull her over and give her a ticket. He was chasing her because he thought he was rescuing her from a kidnapping. He actually thought the woman was kidnapped. He drove up to 90 miles an hour in the opposite lane of traffic. I wouldn't do that for anybody, right? If I was a police officer, I would just sit on the side of the road. I'd be too scared to do that. He did it. Right? He chased this woman. So obviously she's just an evil woman. I hope the judge gives her 10 million years in prison. By the way, what I was thinking is New Mexico got rid of the death penalty back in 2009. This would have been a nice case eligible for death for death penalty. And I would have been a big supporter of this woman being put to death. Terrible, terrible conduct.
Terrible. And as Officer Doran's sister said, a senseless tragedy. So we know on the top count she faces life no matter what, but it's whether or not it's going to be with parole or without parole. In your experience, victim impact statements often are for the benefit of the victim to have that opportunity to speak. This one, though, that sister of the officer, how much do you think that might influence the court, Michael?
I think it's done. I think based on what she said, him calling her kids on their first day of school, I have nieces and nephews. I felt terrible. I felt like a bad person. This man is a better man than me, right? I have nieces and nephews. I thought about it. I hadn't called any of them first day of school. I'm going to start doing it now because of watching that victim impact statement. If it had that much of an impact on me and I'm watching it from my computer, imagine what it's going to do for the judge and for this woman's prospects. I think it was very impactful.
I agree.
Yeah, and ultimately, she, as one of our producers said, she looks relatively inconvenienced being there.
Yes.
For Frank Lovato, life didn't go
I'm so glad she mentioned, Judge, the idea that she only seems to react with any emotion when it has to do with her, because you touched on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's like she can't be bothered by any of this until it's about her, and then we know her tears are flowing.
Yeah, then the tissues start coming out. All right, let's bring in our guest, still with us to discuss, attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, in a minute, it's going to be the defense's turn to put on some sort of presentation. I mean, what do they have to do to counteract this, if it's even possible?
I was hoping you would ask that. Here's my answer. Any defense attorney or former defense attorney watching this feels so much guilt for the defense attorney. I've been in these chairs multiple times. We've all sat through our own fair share of sentencing. This is the most difficult part of a criminal defense attorney's job, right? When you have to stand next to somebody at a sentencing where you have nothing to say. There's no factor you can bring up. There's nothing. The whole courtroom is against you. Just imagine being in the center of a pill, and all the shell casing of the pill is all trying to take you, right? That's exactly what you feel like in this position, because at the end of all, look, there's a video, there's an effigy, there's basically a funeral, a wake, there was a sentencing, there's victim impact statements. You had 7 or 8 things completely against your client, and you're sitting next to your client who's a monster, who's been painted as a monster. Then you have to stand up and talk, and then you have to open your mouth and say stuff, and the stuff you have to say can't embarrass you and destroy your career. What do? I don't know what the defense attorney is going to do, but we are very, very, practical people. We come up with stuff. We're innovative. For that attorney to have that case this high of a profile, I have to assume that this attorney knows what he's doing, knows what to say. He's going to say something that's not going to completely embarrass him. In the beginning of my career, Michael, I would embarrass myself at these sentencings. I'd have nothing to say, right? And I'd get up there and I'd say stuff. I've had judges laugh at me in the first 2 years of my career, right? Because of how difficult this is. And then you have to become seasoned, experienced, and then you start to know what to say and, more importantly, what not to say. I don't know what the defense attorney is going to say, but this is going to be the most difficult sentencing presentation by any defense attorney. It's not possible. You could tie it. You can't get more difficult than this.
Well, and I have to say two things. Number one, the video, watching it again, where you can see the crash on I-25 and you can see them folding the flag for the fallen officer. A visceral reaction. How can she not react to that? But number two, Michael, she has all kinds of supporters seated behind her, and I know we're running out of time, but I think that makes a significant difference. The defense attorney may not have to say much because she does have support in that courtroom. Michael Jaafar, thank you so much for joining us tonight.